Chris opened the restroom door, only to be surprised to find their nanny was standing to pee. Seeing this scene, he quickly found his sister, wanting her to call the police and catch the nanny. But by that time, the nanny had already chased them into their room. The sister could only pick up a tennis racket to protect her brother.
I'm not who you think I am.
Yeah, no shit.
Watch your mouth, young man.
The siblings couldn't be more familiar with this voice because the person in front of them was their father.
Dad?
Daniel wanted his 2 children to help him hide the truth from his wife so that he could continue working as their nanny in this home. It all started a few weeks ago. Daniel's wife, Miranda, was a strict and meticulous designer who was disciplined in all aspects of life. Daniel's personality, on the other hand, was the opposite of his wife's. He was a carefree and spontaneous person. His job was doing voiceovers for animations, where he could mimic the voices of various genders and species. However, due to morally questionable scripts, he made the bold decision to quit his job. Sometimes he changed jobs several times a month. Such personality differences caused conflicts between the couple. On their son's 12th birthday, the conflicts between the couple finally erupted. Miranda, unhappy with their son's poor grades, ordered Daniel not to throw him a birthday party. However, Daniel not only organized a party, but also turned it into a sensational event in the town. He transformed their front yard into a zoo and even invited all the children in the town into their home. The whole house became chaotic and messy. When Miranda, who had returned home early, witnessed this scene, her face turned ashen with anger. She crawled under the table and directly cut off the power supply. Daniel promised his wife that he would restore the house to its original state. However, Miranda didn't believe him because he had never fulfilled his promises before. The conflicts accumulated over time, and she couldn't bear it any longer. Faced with a husband who always had a childlike mindset, Miranda finally said it.
I want a divorce.
Soon, the 2 of them found themselves in court. Due to Daniel not having a stable job, Miranda was granted sole custody of the children. Daniel could only visit them on weekends.
I'm giving you 3 months, Mr. Hillard.
Thank you.
3 months in which to get a job, keep it, and create a suitable home. If this proves to be a possibility for you, I will consider a joint custody arrangement when we reconvene.
Now, Daniel had to endure the pain of saying goodbye to his children. With the help of the community, he found job in another television station. However, this time he wasn't doing voiceover work anymore. He became a film loader, helping with the transportation of film reels. On the other side, Miranda unexpectedly met her first love, Stuart.
Hello, Miranda. It's been a long time.
Yes.
Miranda was overjoyed and pleasantly surprised. They became work partners. But the situation over on Daniel's side was not as good. Just a few days, Daniel's new apartment became a mess. It was obvious he still hadn't learned how to handle household chores. When the kids finally came to his place on the weekend, Daniel had to order takeout for them to eat together. However, before Daniel could spend enough time with the children, Miranda arrived earlier than agreed to pick them up. Daniel was slightly annoyed, but Miranda explained she had to go to the newspaper to place a job ad for hiring a nanny to take care of the kids. Daniel's eyes lit up, and he volunteered himself for the job, saying Miranda could hire him directly. This way, not only would she not have to interview anyone, but he could also see his children every day. However, Miranda declined without hesitation. Nevertheless, Daniel didn't give up. He quietly modified the contact phone number that Miranda was planning to publish in the newspaper for the job advertisement, making it impossible for applicants to reach her. The next day, he used his voice acting skills to pretend to be various weird characters applying for the job.
Hello?
Layla, get back in your cell. Don't make me get the hose.
Hello?
Miranda gradually became desperate with the recruitment process. At this moment, Daniel felt that the timing was right. This time, he disguised himself as an experienced and formally trained British nanny.
Hello, I'm calling in regards to the ad I read in the paper.
With a gentle and tender voice, as well as the contrast to the previous unreliable applicants, Miranda immediately scheduled a meeting with this British nanny. In order to deceive and pass the interview, Daniel enlisted the help of his brother, a makeup artist, to transform himself into a British woman. After trying various eccentric styles, they finally succeeded in creating the perfect look. On the day of the interview, leveraging his understanding of Miranda and the children, Daniel successfully secured the position. From that day on, Daniel worked as a film loader during the day and transformed into Mrs. Doubtfire in the evening. As a nanny, he was truly competent. No TV until homework was done, the children's studies were strictly managed by him, and disobedience resulted in cleaning as punishment while he relaxed on the sofa with tea and a newspaper. Though the children felt disgruntled, in the end they obediently followed his instructions, heading upstairs to do their homework. However, as night fell, Daniel encountered his biggest challenge. As a nanny, he had no cooking skills.
Oh, damn!
Without any other options, he could only order takeout from a high-end restaurant. As soon as Miranda returned home, she saw the children who had completed their homework. Then, as she turned around, she was greeted by a table filled with an extremely lavish dinner. She felt that Mrs. Doubtfire was the perfect nanny, as if an angel sent to rescue her. Although the first day passed without incident, Daniel knew it wasn't a sustainable solution in the long run. Upon returning home, Daniel started learning cooking techniques and culinary skills. He also developed a better rapport with the children. However, Miranda's first love, Stuart, began escorting her home, and their relationship progressed rapidly, which made Daniel felt bitter. One afternoon, Stuart's car parked at the front door, and Daniel immediately pulled off his car emblem. When he entered the house, he handed the emblem back to Stuart, claiming he found it at the doorstep. He then tried to brainwash his ex-wife, suggesting that Stuart was untrustworthy and up to no good.
It's too soon, dear, really. You've got to give your divorce some time, dear. Let your sheets cool down before you bring someone else into the bed, all right?
Mrs. Doubtfire, may I ask you a question?
Oh, certainly.
How long after Mr. Doubtfire passed away,
Winston, yes.
Winston, did you feel any desire?
Never.
Never.
Never again.
Never again?
Once the father of your children is out of the picture, the only solution is total and lifelong celibacy.
Celibacy.
Yes. And if you violate that, heaven forgive you. Good luck.
Daniel's nonsense momentarily baffled the astute and capable Miranda. It was on this evening that their eldest daughter and son discovered his true identity and agreed to keep it a secret. When Daniel returned home that night, he coincidentally encountered an inspector sent by the court to document his recent activities. Seeing Daniel disguised as Mrs. Doubtfire, the inspector mistakenly thought Daniel had started a romantic relationship with an older woman. Daniel had to pretend to be Daniel's own sister in the guise of Mrs. Doubtfire. After leading the inspector inside, Daniel quickly removed his disguise, claiming that the woman the inspector saw was his sister who had been working as a nanny in England and had only recently returned. Unexpectedly, the inspector always wanted to have a cup of proper English tea.
I would adore a good cup of English tea.
Oh, wouldn't we all? I'll go get her. Sis! Oh, sis!
Daniel had to hurriedly disguise as Mrs. Doubtfire again, but his mask accidentally fell downstairs and was mercilessly run over by a passing car. Frantically, he made his way to the kitchen while the inspector was closing in. So Daniel was just complaining about how boring the performance of the host on stage was, unaware that standing next to him was the station's CEO.
What kind of idiot kept this guy on the air for 25 years?
Me.
Embarrassed, Daniel quickly made some suggestions, such as adding special segments to the show like reading children's letters or giving away toys. The CEO seemed interested in his ideas, but Daniel, who was just a mover, was soon called away by the logistics department. Apart from being a mover at the television station, Daniel had another identity, the nanny, Mrs. Doubtfire, in his own home. He disguised himself as Mrs. Doubtfire because he had recently divorced his wife and was granted only visitation rights with his 3 children. In order to be close to his children, he had to pretend to be Mrs. Doubtfire and apply for the position of nanny in his own home. Although the job as a nanny didn't start off smoothly, he gradually became more adept at it and earned the trust of the children and his ex-wife, Miranda. One day, Miranda and the person she thought was Mrs. Doubtfire began discussing her ex-husband, Daniel. Daniel was prepared to hear her complain about him, but to his surprise, Miranda thought highly of Daniel. She found him not only romantic but also very humorous, always able to make her, who was usually serious and reserved, laugh. However, after they got married and had children, everything changed. The house was always in chaos due to the energetic Daniel, and Miranda always had to clean up after him when she returned from work.
The truth is, I didn't like who I was when I was with him. I would turn into this horrible person. I didn't want my kids growing up with a mother like that. When I'm not with Daniel, I'm better. And I'm sure he's better when he's not with me.
Well, you never... I mean, did you ever say anything to him, dear?
Daniel never liked to talk about anything serious.
Daniel lowered his head in shame. He realized that Miranda had always accommodated him, and he had never truly listened to her. A few days later, Daniel finished his moving job ahead of schedule and discovered an empty studio. He quietly walked over and saw the stage filled with various dolls. It reminded him of his previous voice acting work. Alone, he began an impromptu performance. At that moment, the CEO, who had heard the sound, walked in. Witnessing the passionate performance, he genuinely applauded for Daniel, feeling that his act was truly educational and entertaining. The CEO and Daniel agreed to meet the following Friday evening at 7 o'clock at the Bridge restaurant to discuss the possibility of arranging a show specifically for him. After his experience as a nanny during that time, his previously messy apartment became well organized. The children praised his cooking, comparing it to that of a professional nanny. However, his ex-wife remained cold towards him. On the other hand, Miranda showed great enthusiasm towards Mrs. Doubtfire and invited her to her daughter's birthday party at the Bridge restaurant on Friday evening. Unfortunately, this conflicted with Daniel's scheduled meeting with the CEO. Initially, he wanted to decline Miranda's invitation. However, upon hearing that her current partner, Stu, would also be attending, he impulsively agreed. On that Friday, he arrived at the restaurant in his nanny disguise and spotted the CEO waiting. Hastily settling Miranda, he excused himself to the restroom, quickly changing back into his own clothes to meet the CEO. During their conversation, Daniel found that Miranda and the kids were waiting for him to order together. So he hurried back to the restroom, changed back into Mrs. Doubtfire's clothes, and returned to the table. He continued switching between the two tables, managing well initially. However, after a few drinks with the CEO, Daniel's mind began foggy. He even disguised himself as a chef and sneaked into the kitchen, sprinkling chili powder on Stu's food. Gleefully, he then sat at the CEO's table.
Can I help you, man?
Oh, sorry I'm late, but after all those scotches, I had to piss like a racehorse.
Daniel,
Yeah?
why in God's name are you dressed like a woman?
Fortunately, Daniel's improvisation skills were top-notch. He told the CEO that it was a new look prepared for the new show. Surprisingly, the CEO was quite pleased with Daniel's new look. Meanwhile, the chili-covered food was served. Stu unsuspectingly took a big bite and immediately choked on the spiciness. The food lodged in his throat, making it hard for him to breathe. Seeing this, Daniel realized he had caused a disaster. Without hesitation, he rushed behind Stu and began performing the Heimlich maneuver, successfully saving Stu's life. However, in the process, he accidentally tore his own mask. Just like that, Daniel's plan was completely exposed.
Daddy?
Yeah, honey. It's me. Happy birthday.
Miranda felt utterly disappointed and left without looking back. Soon, the 3-month retrial arrived. This time, Daniel chose to defend himself. He stated that he now had a comfortable place to live and a very stable job, meeting the requirements set by the judge initially. Therefore, he appealed to the judge for leniency.
I can only plead insanity. Because ever since my children were born, the moment I looked at them, I was crazy about them. And once I held them, I was hooked. I'm addicted to my children, sir. I love them with all my heart. And the idea of someone telling me I can't be with them, I can't see them every day, well, it's like someone saying I can't have air. I can't live without air, and I can't live without them. Listen, I would do anything. I just want to be with them. You know, I need that, sir. We have a history. And they mean everything to me, and they need me as much as I need them. So please, don't take my kids away from me.
Even though his words touched the judge and his wife, the act of Daniel disguising himself as a woman and infiltrating his ex-wife's home was seen as a violation of the court's initial ruling. In the end, the judge had no choice but to strip Daniel of his custody rights completely. After losing Daniel as their nanny, Miranda's life became a mess once again. She had considered hiring another nanny, but after interviewing many candidates, none of them seemed suitable. Suddenly, the familiar voice of Mrs. Doubtfire was heard, not from outside the door, but from the television. The familiar British lady appeared on the show. Daniel's new program became a huge hit, achieving the highest ratings for the television station. On that day, after finishing the recording, Miranda appeared behind Daniel. She wished for them to have a proper conversation. Miranda realized that no matter how incompatible they were as a couple, Daniel genuinely cared for their children, something that no one could surpass. Even though they had separated, the consequences of their separation shouldn't be borne by the children. As a result, Miranda found the perfect nanny for their children. Daniel no longer needed to disguise himself as Mrs. Doubtfire to be with them. The three children excitedly prepared to go out and have fun with their father. At that moment, Miranda heard a voice from the television. It was Daniel reading a letter from a child. In the letter, the child asked how she could make their parents come back together.
Oh, my dear Katie. You know, some parents, when they're angry, they get along much better when they don't live together. They don't fight all the time, and they can become better people and much better mummies and daddies for you. And sometimes they get back together. And sometimes they don't, dear. And if they don't blame yourself. Just because they don't love each other anymore doesn't mean that they don't love you. Now, there are all sorts of different families, Katie. Some families have one mommy, some families have one daddy, or two families. And some children live with their uncle or aunt, some live with their grandparents, or some children live with foster parents. And some live in separate homes and separate neighborhoods in different areas of the country, and they may not see each other for days, weeks, months, or even years at a time. But if there's love, dear, those are the ties that bind. And you'll have a family in your heart forever. All my love to you, Poppet. You're going to be all right.
And thus, the movie comes to an end. This film, titled Mrs. Doubtfire, is an undeniable classic comedy, starring the beloved Robin Williams. The movie is full of constant laughs, and although the ending is a bit bittersweet, it also elevates the overall theme of the movie. Some parents need to separate in order to find a better life for themselves and their children. Conflicts are inevitable in every family, but what's most important is finding a suitable way to resolve them and not letting the children bear the consequences of their parents' separation. Feel free to share your thoughts on this movie in the comments section. See you in the next movie.